I've created a new American degree with no numbers entered in the income and expense summary. And we're going to start with the current inventory, which is in sections 1 and 2 at the top of this page. Now, if you've already set up your basic setup page and your ending current and ending non-current inventory, then those numbers are the only ones that will transfer to this page and will be present when you go to this page to start. So it should look something like this. Your beginning current inventory, this comes from the basic setup page. Your closing current inventory comes from the ending current inventory page. So these numbers are the only ones that will pop up on the screen. You need to fill in the rest. So in this example, it's best if you start with your first year. And this is where good record keeping is really important, because you need to remember what you had left on December 31st of 2018 that was considered current inventory. So in the example that I had filled in the numbers before that we looked at, this number was $9,500. So if we put that in there as our closing current inventory for 2018, that's what I had when I finished my project on December 31st of 2018. You'll notice that it shows the change in current inventory. We lost $100, which is fine. It just means that you had less inventory left over. The cash sales would be anything that you sold in 2018 for cash. So maybe it was a steer you sold at the fair, or it could be eggs that you sold from your chicken, or it could be crops that you sold, or plants that you sold. So cash sales are items that you sold that you were planning on only keeping for less than a year or for short term. The value of product used at home, this is a non-cash entry. This would be if you barter maybe with your parents and you raise pigs, and one of the pigs out of your herd is actually going to go to your family to help offset some of the costs of using their facilities and electricity and those types of things. So if you give part of your SAE project to your family to use, that would go here. The value of production transferred to other enterprises, transferred to your non-current barter or labor exchange non-cash. So this 1F is really important, because whatever number you put in here, if you have a barter with your parents, so in the application I filled, they had a barter for $9,150. So this number right here has to be offset down here in 2B, 2D, or 4B. And 4B is for animals that you transfer in. So if you have breeding animals and you have some heifers maybe that you are going to transfer into your non-current inventory because you're going to keep them, this is where those animals get transferred in. Or any other type of inventory that starts out in your current inventory, and you're going to transfer it in, that's where it would go. So for this situation, we have a 2B, we have no money put here for the, we have $8,650 here that this person claimed in 2B, which is inventory purchased for resale. So this is any livestock animals that maybe you purchased to turn around resell, or maybe it's a piece of equipment or a tractor, something that you plan to keep for a short amount of time and then turn around and sell again. So market steers would be a good example, or market lambs, market hogs. So if you purchase those, and this is inventory purchase for resale. It's a non-cash transfer, so it came from here. This is a bartered exchange for this individual. Okay. In addition, these would be cash expenses, anything that they spent their own money from their SAE on. So this individual, we're going to say, spent $350 of their own money. And then 2D would be also part of this barter up here, a non-cash expense that is something that they use to pay for expenses for their SAE project, and that would be $500. So that 2B and 2D, when you add them together, these two, that they will equal this 9,150, because this individual did not transfer anything in to 4B this year. All right, so you'll notice that the number from 1A, your closing current inventory from 2018, becomes your beginning current inventory in 2019. It automatically transfers it over to there. So then you have to look at your records and decide what did you end up with for closing current inventory, or add up what you ended up with on December 31st of 2019. So this individual has $10,335 as their closing current inventory in 2019. Remember, they had purchased some animals for resale. So this individual had, for example, a beef project, and these are market steers, and they sold them the next year at the fair. So we're going to put in the amount of money they made from those animals. And then they didn't have any product used at home, but they did have a barter again, $11,250. Now remember, 1F has to be offset by 2B, 2D, and 4B if you're transferring any of your young stock. So this individual didn't have any heifers that they transferred in from their beef project. So you'll notice they didn't add any. So the value of the heifers here would be what they're worth at birth. And then the next year when you transfer them in, that's the only time you can appreciate their value really is by including all the expenses you have in them for that first year that you raised them from birth to when you transfer them into your non-current inventory. So this is going to, this year they didn't have those again. So 2B and 2D are going to have to equal this $11,250. So this number is going to be $9,250. They also had cash expenses they paid out of their own pocket of $1,800. And then this one is $2,000, so that 2B and 2D equal 1F. All right, and so you'll notice again that your closing current inventory transferred over here to beginning current inventory for 2020. So then you need to add up what you had left on December 31st of 2020 for your closing in current inventory. And we're going to put in $12,785 for this year. And you'll notice that that automatically transfers over here. Okay, and then there were animals that were purchased for resale again this previous year. So we're going to show cash sales here. And we have cash sales of 58,000. Okay, and then the the 1F is their barter, and it's 13,250. And then they didn't have, you'll notice they didn't have any inventory purchase for resale they paid cash for. These were all bartered. But if you were to go out and buy a steer with your own cash, then you would put it on line 2A. or you went and bought a market lamb that you're going to sell with your own cash, you'd put that value on 2A. All right, so in 2020, the inventory they purchased for resale that they bartered was $10,250. And then their cash expenses, they have $2,100. And then 2D is $3,000. So if we add up 2B and 2D, they equal 1F. All right. Let's go to 2021. And again, our closing current inventory is our beginning current inventory. The closing current inventory for 2020 is the beginning current inventory for 2021. And then this year, we're ending with $21,398. And remember, they bartered for animals for resale. So they had cash sales this year. And that was $6,948. And they did have product that they used at home. So they must have had a steer they didn't sell that they used at home. So that goes there. And then 1F is now $16,900. Okay. And so we go down here and we have their inventory purchase for resales, $14,500. That would be like their market steers. And then we had cash expenses of $3,550. And then their non-cash expenses, this is bartered again, is to $2,400. So again, if we add up 2B and 2D, that equals 1F. Okay, so 2022, this one has an ending current inventory of 23,803. And notice that goes right over to 2023. And then their cash sales was $14,832. Their cash expenses were $1,166. And then 1F, their bartered exchange of labor is $16,900. Sorry, that's not right. It's 20,100. Okay, so they did purchase inventory, their own inventory this year. So they have $4,250 that they spent their money on from their SAE project to buy animals for resale. And then their inventory that they purchased for resale that they bartered for was $12,750. They also invested some cash in their project, $14,600. And then 2D is bartered again, and that's $2,650. All right. And in this instance, you'll notice that 2B and 2D do not add up to the $20,100. And if we scroll down, it's going to say no here, and it's off $4,700. That's because this year, this individual transferred in some animals from his current inventory into his non-current inventory. So these would be breeding heifers that he raised or were born to his herd in 2021, and then he transferred them in 2022. So now if we add all of those up, we get a yes, because now the 4,700 $2,650, and the $12,750 equal this $20,100 in 1F. All right, got a couple more years to go here. So, for example, in 2023, the closing current inventory was 35,208. All right, and so that's going to move over here. And now notice 2024's closing current inventory is already filled in, and that's because that came from the ending current inventory page. All of these numbers added up to enter that number here. All right, so 2023 cash sales, they had $26,441 in cash sales. They had $1,680 in the value of product used at home. And then 1F is their barter, which was $40,000 this year. Okay, so they also purchased inventory for resale with cash. So $6,450, and this is cash from their SAE project. And then their inventory they purchased for resale that was bartered was $35,000. Okay. And then cash expenses out of their own money, they spent $27,554. And then their non-cash is $3,000. And if we scroll down, you'll notice it says no because it's off 2,000. They transferred in some more breeding stock. Another heifer goes there in 4B. So 4B plus 2D plus 2B equals 1F. And it says yes at the bottom now. No, this says review because we don't have the last year's records in. So their last year, they ended up that we can't put in the closing current inventory because that came from the ending current inventory page. So we're going to put in cash sales. So this 2024, they had cash sales of $20,355. They had $1,420 that was value of product used at home. So a steer that they kept probably or part of one. And then their value production that they bartered with labor was $49,650. All right, so 1F, we have to balance out down here. So you'll notice it says no when 1F isn't balanced. All right, so they did purchase animals to resell. So $3,750, $3,750 goes there. Their inventory that they purchased to resell but was bartered was $34,750. And their cash expenses that they paid out of their own pocket was $30,500. And then 2D was non-cash expenses. So this could be for other things that, in addition to their, so this could be like feed and things like that. So 3,400. And then, yeah, notice they didn't have any contributed gifts, something they were gifted in exchange for their labor. So this is a non-cash expense also, but or it's a non-SAE labor exchange. Sorry, this would be where you put gifts. All right, so then down here, if you look, we have 49,650. 2B and 2D do not equal that. And if you go down here, you can see no, and it's off $11,500. So in 4B, this is where those animals were transferred in, and that was the value that they transferred in for. So it depends on how many heifers he transferred in and their value for that 1 year that he kept them back in his current inventory. All right. And then that completes the top part, the current inventory for the income and expense summary. Now, you can see that it really helps to have good records so you know what your current inventory was you had at December 31st of each year. It is also an important part of your records to know what you sold animals for or any of your current inventory for at the fair or to customers. It's really important to keep track of that information for line 1D. And then any value of your products that were used at home, the value of those that you can put into E. And then, of course, you're also going to need to know what your expenses were, which ones you bartered for, which ones you paid cash for, as far as feed and vet bills and medicine and anything like that. And then if you didn't purchase or barter for animals to resell, that's okay. This can be zero. You can pay cash for them. So it all depends on your project and your SAE agreement that you have with your parents or the person that people you're working with, your project. So you need to have really good records in order to help you fill this page out accurately. It also helps to know what year your heifers were born, how many you had, what their value is when they're first born, and then adding what it costs to raise them for a whole year and anything you had as far as medicine, feed, vet bills, anything that you can add to them. So when you transfer them in the next year, you can appreciate their value. And these animals will be non-depreciable animals that you put on your closing not or ending non-current inventory on the ending non-current inventory page. So good records will make filling out this page much easier. All right. Then next, you should watch the video on how to fill out the non-current inventory, which is in number 4 in the bottom part of this page.